Welcome to the greatest pitch in the world. No grass, no chalk, no referees. There's only 2 stones, 3 steps, and 1 goal.
So the first time we saw FIFA Street obviously was at Gamescom. Back then you had a kind of a buggy code, and they were kind of showing it a little bit and letting us play a little bit, but it was really far too buggy to play it. After we played a few games today, I would say that it's still a little bit buggy, a little better. Could you give us an idea of where you are in development right now?
Sure. So the build we have today is it's an alpha build. So we still have about a few more months of development. The build we have today really kind of showcases more about the style and flair of the game that you may not have seen at the Gamescom build. The Gamescom build is sort of a first taste, a first introduction. Today we want to give you a little bit more, start to really build up the skills that you might see in the final product. There's still a lot of work to do, but we have a little bit of time left to do it.
I didn't quite get the way you do all the tricks. Not really, I understand it when you explain the controls, but I can't get it done within the gameplay. Is that something that you guys still looking at, or that you might even be worried about?
So definitely within the gameplay itself, there's a lot of balancing left to do. So on the one hand, we don't want tricks to be so easy that just by pushing a button or doing some move that they're just always going to work. A lot of it has to do with the skill of the user himself, and timing is carefully. The other hand, we do need to change sort of the pacing of the game, especially when you're playing against the AI. We need to give you the time to be able to kind of make up your mind on when you do a trick, what trick you want to do, and give you the opportunity to identify when a good time to do that trick is. So for us at this point, we're at a point where we're trying to build in the content, put the tricks in so that we can identify how we need to balance, how we need to pace the game to be able to pull that off.
Non-stop, yo we rocken non-stop, non-stop, yo we rocken non-stop, non-stop, yo we rocken non-stop.
When you select a team in FIFA Street, any FIFA player will notice that there's far less teams to choose from. Why is that?
So we really wanted to showcase teams that might feel a bit more like they're geared towards street football, so having the best teams in the top leagues. We also wanted to make a game, and the reason we have them in there is we know there's an element of fans who just want to play with the stars, see what they feel like playing on the street. We really want the game to be more about kind of you creating your own team within our World Tour mode, and being able to use that team not just within that social connected experience in that mode itself, but everywhere in the game itself. And if everyone is building their own teams, playing against them in online matches, playing against them within the World Tour, you start to get more of what we feel is truer to the street football, and the authentic feel of street football is just kind of you and your friends making a team together and trying to become the best team in the world.
Well, that question was a little bit geared to the Dutch league not being in there. As you might know, Holland is one of the main countries for street football. Wouldn't it make sense to put a Dutch league in there?
So in terms of the leagues and what you saw today, like nothing is final. So even in terms of what we have or what we don't have, we're still working through our licenses, working through agreements to figure out what we want to have. So what you saw in the build today is not necessarily what's going to be represented in the build later. So we are still exploring what team should be making it into the game.
You also mentioned in a presentation which you gave earlier that there's not only going to be professional footballers in the game, but also so-called well-known street footballers. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, who are they and what kind of names do you have in there?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of the street footballer teams, what we really wanted to do is help bring some of those guys. They may not be well known to everyone, they're not mass market, but within the street football community, these are some of the best in the world. So from all over the world, we have there's a couple of guys who came to EA Studios, for example, to help us with motion capture. Sean and Soufiane came to do a lot of the skill moves that you'll see in the game today. There's another guy that helped us called Steve Elias from Canada. He's in the game. I think he goes by Eli Freeze on the team. So we have about 30 street football stars in our game, and what we want to do is be able to have people play against them within the World Tour. They'll show up as you get towards the later stages of the World Tour, so you got to start to see some of these guys. Hopefully they'll look them up on YouTube and see what's kind of the cool stuff that they do.
Football-loving gamers by now have picked up either PES or FIFA, and When it's March, most of them will still be playing those football games. Why should they pick up another football game in March?
The football game, like the authentic kind of street football experience that we wanted to make, is actually geared towards those guys who are already playing sort of a club football game, either FIFA or PES, who are maybe interested in playing. So for the guys that are already playing, these are guys who have kind of been playing club football. It's been a long time since they've had any kind of alternate football experience. So it's a chance for them to finally have a high quality street football experience, another way to play the game they love already. For guys who may be more interested in eventually playing kind of FIFA, but who are maybe intimidated by playing the game right now because of the complexity, because their friends have been playing for maybe a few more years than they have, and whenever they play them, they lose 6-0. It's a chance for them to get into the game at the same time as everyone else, so they're at the same level and can kind of, have more meaningful matches against opponents, feel more comfortable playing, and maybe eventually move on to club football games.
Staying on that subject of guys who are already playing other games, what they're mostly doing, at least in my opinion, or what I'm doing, is playing online. You've mentioned that in this game timing is essential, and what you often see in games where timing is essential, that any sort of lag or any sort of a bad connection, either you or your opponent, it could probably mess up this game. How do you see that work?
Yeah, I mean, we have to spend a ton of time with our online testing to ensure that these kind of issues don't happen. So what we actually do within our online testing is add lag, just to understand how the game will react within laggy conditions. So, a lot of what we do as we build the game, as we test the game, as we tune the game, we also look at what does the game play like under certain conditions, what does the game play like when our development team in Vancouver is playing against partners in St. Petersburg, for example, or against one of our QA teams in Romania. So we understand not just when you're staying within the studio and playing, but when you're playing across an ocean, what's that experience going to be like? We even have the ability to kind of fake what happens when many people are playing online at the same time, so that we can understand what the impact is to the gameplay, and then again make sure that we are fixing any issues that might be introduced because of having several thousand people kind of playing the game at the same time.
So one of the things pretty much confirmed for future FIFAs, and I'm now talking about the club football version, so let's say FIFA 13, is that it's going to support Connect in some way. Although we don't see that making sense immediately, we could, that might be something for FIFA Street. Would you agree? How do you look at that?
Yeah, I mean, earlier on we definitely looked at, what are the different things that we could help put into the FIFA Street experience. At one point we just sort of sat down and said, what, before we start putting in all these other things, Connect, Move, 3D, anything, DLC even, like, people aren't going to go for that until they have a proper street football experience. And we've kind of disappointed our fans in previous years with previous FIFA Streets, because there was the excitement, there was the enthusiasm about going out and getting them, and then the disappointment of having played it now for a little while that there wasn't more to it, there wasn't enough depth to the gameplay. So we didn't feel like we needed to go explore those other things to put into the game until we actually build a proper street football game in the first place. And we dedicated our whole team to just making sure that from a depth perspective, within the gameplay, within the game modes, from a quality perspective, to eliminate some of the issues you see from an online, or you may see if there was lag issues, or that you've seen in the build today from our goalkeepers are going kind of mental. We want to make sure none of that stuff gets into the game that gets released, so that fans finally realize a proper street football game.
If you play FIFA 12, you see like a clear distinction between star players and those who are a little bit less of a star players. Yeah. When you're playing five-a-side, the difference in quality between Gregory van der Wiel and Wayne Rooney might be far more decisive as it is in 11 versus 11 game, especially if you're playing five-a-side without a goalkeeper. Every mistake basically is a goal. How do you work around that?
So in the builds we have today, I mean, we wanted everyone to kind of experience all the full set of moves, so everyone is kind of balanced to be the same. Definitely we'll introduce sort of the differences to the characters, and I think that's what's going to make some of the gameplay in front of the challenge within the gameplay itself is going to be understanding who the different players are on the pitch and how you want to use them, choosing the right players for your team depending on the type of game you're about to play. We also wanted to make sure that, while there is the licensed aspect of the game, we're going to have club teams and national teams and kind of using the stars, we still want to create an equal emphasis on the fact that you're going to have your own team that you're going to create within the game, and you'll be able to create the guys in the way that you want to, and then you'll be able to understand what their skills and unique attributes are, and be able to play in the way that makes sense for those players. So as you go through World Tour and leveling up your characters, you'll be able to add more attributes to them to make them stronger, make them faster, shoot better, better keepers, and then you'll unlock different skills and styles and tricks that you can then apply to those players also. And then now you know more personally the team that you've built and what their sort of talents are and the different types of matches that they're going to play.